Hey, what's going on everybody? Jeremy Rubin, the Friendly Flipper here, and today I am going to save you money. On today's flip tip, I'm going to tell you how to not overpay in more than one way. You're going to want to stick around and see this. So check it out. Let's get straight to it. I'm trying to keep more pennies in your bank, more dollars in your tank. All right, so don't overpay. We're talking about how not to overpay today. And this comes down to a few critical things. Number one, you can't overpay for the house. You've heard it before. You make your money when you buy, all right? So you gotta buy right. Now, what's going to allow us to buy right? Well, we're gonna eliminate as many variables as we can, or narrow down as many uncertainties as we can, so that way we can make our best, well-informed decision when we make our offer, and we don't end up spending more than we thought we would, or going over budget, or thinking we're gonna make more than we actually end up making because we didn't account for something. All right, so number one, the house. We don't wanna overpay for the house. So how are we gonna do that? Well, we're gonna stick to the numbers. We gotta stick to our sold comps. So you gotta pull up the sold comps, you gotta really narrow down what the after repair value is of your property once it is equal to the nicest homes in the neighborhood. That's the strategy for fix and flip, all right? You want your property to align with the nicest homes in the neighborhood. That's how you know you'll get top dollar for your property, because otherwise there's a lot of uncertainty. And you want to narrow it down as much as you can. So you're comparing apples to apples, right? Stick to your sold comps. That's the number one thing. Stick to your sold comps. I'll do another video all about comps, but today's video, we're keeping it short. You gotta stick to your good sold comps. All right, next thing, rehab bids. This can come and bite you. So another thing, you don't wanna overpay for your renovation. How do you prevent that? Well, you get multiple bids on anything in life, whether it's buying tires or getting a new plumbing fixture installed or renovating an entire house. The best way for you to figure out how much you should pay so you don't overpay is by getting multiple bids. 5 bids minimum, not less than that. You really need to get a good idea. I'll give you an example. I went shopping for cabinets because I was told that this place had a good deal and this place had a good deal and this place had a good deal. So I mapped them all out one day, started driving around to the different cabinet shops, and in fact, they were getting lower. We're getting better and better deals. And we were thinking, man, can it get any better than this? It was basically half. We were able to get them for about $2,500 compared to $5,000 when what our first bid was, and it got even better. So it takes going after the 4th, 5th, 6th bid. If you could get 100 bids, think about that. You're gonna have the best data. You're gonna have a much better macro, big picture view of, okay, what's a good deal, what's not a good deal. And the cheapest is not always the best one to go with either. So keep that in mind too. But get 5 bids minimum on anything you're not familiar with as far as cost-wise. You want to walk through the property and you want to calculate your repairs as you walk through it. But you also, if you're uncertain on anything, if you're inexperienced, if you haven't flipped a bunch of houses before, or if you're not sure on what a specific item is going to cost, then you want to get multiple bids. I'll give you an example. Foundation. Got a foundation repair. That's kind of something out of the norm, out of your normal fix and flip deal. So you're going to call in a specialist, someone to fix the foundation. You want to get multiple bids because you're going to get bids from, for example, for the same thing, anywhere from $11,000 to $22,000 to fix a garage foundation. As an example, that's what I paid for one out here. So multiple bids. That way, you're eliminating that uncertainty because you know what it's going to cost you, and you're not overpaying. So we're eliminating those things. We want, okay, ARV, we narrowed that down pretty solid. Bids, we're going to get that in line. We're not going to overpay. Next thing, people don't take into consideration is how much you're paying to borrow that money. If you're using other people's money, if you're using hard money, if you're using private money, make sure you take into consideration when you're making your offer how much that is going to cost you and how that's going to come out of your profit, okay? So if you're not calculating that ahead of time, then you're going to be doing all this work and thinking like you're going to be making all this money, and you're going to end up with not as much as you thought. So here's how you do it. 6 months on your normal fix and flip, calculate for 6 months of monthly mortgage interest only payments. Then you also want to calculate in all your fees. So get the total fees that you're being charged by the lender and the points up front, add all that together, and that's the cost of your money. So that you're going to see that that's going to be a significant amount of your profit. Usually anywhere from a third to like 25%, all the way up to could be 50%, depending on the deal. So it's a large amount of money. And so if you don't account for it correctly, then you really gotta, you're gonna have a problem, okay? So what's next? You gotta take into consideration what it's gonna cost to sell the property. So another thing, it should be duh. Okay, of course, you gotta list the property when it's done to sell it, but if you don't pencil this in, then you're setting yourself up for something, you're not gonna end up with your true numbers. So your real estate commission that you're gonna pay to sell your property, and when you're selling fix and flips, you want to list them. You don't want to sell them for sale by owner most of the time. Here's the reason why. Because you want the maximum exposure. You want them to move fast. We're going to talk about the velocity of money in another video, but you want these properties on the market, most exposure as possible, sold as quickly as possible, so you want to list them with an agent. So you're going to be paying 5 and 6%. You got to take that into account when you're coming up with your offer number. Whatever's customary in your area, 5 or 6% to pay both sides of that. On top of that, you still got to account for closing costs. And to do that, just take 1% of the ARV, and that'll cover in general on both sides, on the acquisition side and the disposition side. So in summary, we want to eliminate all of these uncertainties or narrow down, got these ballparks, right? We want to narrow down the ballparks to as a narrow window as possible, so we have the most amount of certainty, so we can calculate our offer. So we're going to take our ARV, which we are very solid about. We're going to take our bid, the one that we're going to go with, and we know we're not paying too much because we got multiples to choose it from. We're going to subtract our ARV, take our ARV, subtract what it's going to cost to renovate it, subtract what it's going to cost to borrow the money, subtract what it's going to cost to sell it, and subtract the 1% as well for your closing costs. And what does that leave out? Your profit. You got to put your profit in there, okay? So 1% for closing costs, CC, and profit. These are the things you got to account for, okay? And what do I recommend for profit? It's going to fall between 10 and 20% of your ARV in general. However, in most markets, you'll find that's pretty wide ballpark, right? We're trying to narrow things down here, but it really depends on the cost of the home. What I'm shooting for is 13%. If I can make 13 to 15 in general is good. But then again, it's going to depend on some lower priced areas, higher priced areas, but that's where you want to be within that zone. And then you want to have a minimum dollar amount. Your minimum dollar amount profit that you should shoot for, because we're eliminating risk, we're saving money here, right? Is $25,000. Minimum $25,000. Because that's bare minimum. Because if stuff goes wrong, if for something unforeseen happens where you've got to spend another $10,000 on the property, then boom, you're not losing money. If the market dips a little bit, boom, you're not losing money. The whole idea is that you walk away. If worst comes to worst, you don't lose any money. But that's a bare minimum. So see where your numbers work, and then more realistically, that number should be anywhere from 25 to 75 plus. Just depending on the area and the time that you're going to put into it, the amount of work that you're going to put into it. It all factors into that. If you're putting $75,000 to make it in renovations to make $25,000 in profit, that's not usually a good idea. You want your profit to be pretty well in line with what you're going to spend, or you want your profit to be way higher where you put in very little or no work at all. So that's above and beyond. I'm going to break those topics down in future flip tip videos. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's flip tip video. If you want to be notified of when the next one is going to hit the world, for you to see it first, subscribe, ring the bell, and I love to see what guys, what comments you guys have and all that stuff. So let me know. I read the comments. I respond within the first 24 hours for those who comment in the first 24 hours. And I'd love to know what you'd like to see in future flip tip videos. So thank you so much for watching. Again, Jeremy Rubin, the Friendly Flipper. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace out.